Constitution comes about getting drafted. If you recall from Section 1, we talked about the Articles of Confederation. And we can describe the Articles of Confederation in one word. And that word is? Weak. Very weak. Not strong. Weak. Okay? So, during this time, we're going to see about what made it so weak. And the first thing that happened, well, not the first thing, but one of the things that happens that shows just how weak the Articles of Confederation is Shays' Rebellion. Well, hello.
Hi.
How are you?
I'm fabulous. How are you?
Oh. If I were any better, I'd be jealous of myself.
Oh, wow. Well, that's awesome. I'm going to give you these. If you'll get them in their hands,
Yes, ma'am.
we just need them to bring them back about no later than tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
If they do want lunch, guys, you all can just say, hey, I want lunch, and fill it out and give it to him for the week after Thanksgiving.
Thank you so much.
Sorry, they just got these two.
No problem. We'll take care of it during links. All right, so Shays' Rebellion. Now, what's a rebellion?
Overthrowing.
Okay, yeah, it could be an overthrowing, could be something that causes change, or just kind of something that butts up against authority, all right? And that's what happens in Shays' Rebellion. It is kind of a farmer's protest. Now remember, this is coming out of the American Revolutionary War, and we have the Articles of Confederation government. And each state was pretty powerful, and they had the authority to raise taxes and then tax however they wanted. Well, Daniel Shays was a farmer who lived in western Massachusetts. He was a veteran of the American Revolution, and he and a lot of his veteran friends moved out into western Massachusetts and started farming to be subsistence farmers, raise enough food to care for themselves and their family, and live a simple life. All right? But when the state of Massachusetts, who has to pay for its Revolutionary War debt, begins to implement things like property taxes, Daniel Shays and his friends, are they allowed to pay their property taxes in wheat or corn or chickens or eggs? What do you pay your property taxes in? Money. They don't have money because they don't participate in the economy really. They're subsistence farmers, all right? So if you don't pay your taxes, what happens to your property? It's taken. It's foreclosed upon, all right? So one after another, a lot of these western frontier farmers like Daniel Shays, who are American Revolutionary War veterans, are losing their homes and their farms because of their inability to pay property taxes. How would you feel if you had just risked your life for this country, and now because you can't pay a couple $100 in property taxes, you lose your livelihood and your ability to feed your family? How do you feel? Not very happy. How do you think Daniel Shays felt? How do you think all his buddies that were losing their farms felt? Not very happy. So what do? They rebel. Okay? Now, the form that this rebellion takes is that they march throughout the city, the countryside of Massachusetts, and they go to places where taxes are collected, tarring and feathering tax collectors, using violence to keep their homes. Sounds like the best way to go about it, right? Well, the thing about it was it working? Yes. This is open rebellion, and it's working. And so, you're the leader of Massachusetts. You're the governor of Massachusetts. What do? Put your foot down. How are you going to do that? Hey, you guys, you stop. You knock it off. Call a meeting? Okay.
Enforce the law.
How do you enforce the law?
Bring in troops.
Okay, so we're going to bring in troops. All right? So who are the troops he has available to him? Well, could he call the Articles of Confederation government? Like, hey, do they have an army? Are they allowed to raise an army? They're allowed to raise one. Do they have one? They don't even have one because nobody sent them any money. They depended upon the states to have money to raise an army. So when they call, there's no telephones. When they contact the Articles of Confederation government, say, hey, we need soldiers. I got open rebellion here. They're like, hey, we don't have anybody. You're on your own. So, do the states have their own militias? Yes, they have their own militias. Guess who the state militia of Massachusetts is? How about all the farmers that are losing their homes that are American Revolutionary War veterans? Hey, can you guys come? I'm calling you up to stop yourselves. Nobody's going to answer that call, right? So who's going to stop this rebellion? What function of government is there to put an end to this? There is none. No government available. And so technically and officially, what is the government of the United States when this is happening? Anarchy. No government. These people are doing what they want without any government oversight. That is anarchy. Anarchy once existed in America. And we made it. We made it through. It ends up stopping because the governor of Massachusetts, you know who he calls? George Washington. And George Washington just shows up and he's like, look, y'all, I brought some guys with me, but we don't need to fight. We all fought together in the American Revolution. We're going to work some stuff out. And George Washington, on his own, puts an end to it. One man. That's how good George Washington was. Okay? Can you imagine that happening now? Like, there's open rebellion and, like, there's no government. Nobody, like, you pick up the phone, call 911, and nobody answers. That's what anarchy is. Okay? That's what happened under Shays' Rebellion. Do we need to change? Yes. Is the Articles of Confederation a failure? Yes. And that the Shays' Rebellion shows for that. And so a convention is called for. And, you know, there were other problems other than inability to stop rebellions going on in the United States. You know, states were quarreling with one another over trade agreements. Each state had their own currency. Can you imagine if you go from Virginia to West Virginia and you had to have a currency exchange and not all the states had the same value? Like, what a nightmare, okay? So such leaders like Alexander Hamilton, they're on the left, James Madison, they're on the right, who is the father of the Constitution. They call a meeting to discuss some changes to be made to the Articles of Confederation. But if you recall, in order to make a change to the Articles of Confederation, what was required? It had to be unanimous. Well, at this convention, only 12 states show up. Rhode Island doesn't even show up. Can they make changes? No, they can't even make changes because it would be illegal. So, instead of changing the articles, they end up completely just throwing it in the garbage. And then from May of 1787, all throughout that summer, they draft the article or the United States Constitution. All right. So I know we're running low on time today because we spent a lot of time talking about Teams meetings and stuff. But I'll try to, make sure that you read your text because really, the text goes directly hand in hand with the PowerPoint slides. So make sure that you read your text. And tomorrow you'll have your vocabulary quiz. Okay? So, and if you have questions, ask me. Send me an email, shoot me a Schoology message, whatever you need, and I'm here to help.